Rev up your engines!
Well, the companies all try to say they're doing good, but Ford had to admit to a third quarter net loss this year. They're blaming it on supply chain problems and their investment in Argo. That's the company they invested in that was going to make full self-driving autonomous stuff, right? They're all jumping off of that bandwagon. Ford's cutting their ties. Volkswagen's cutting their ties with it. They put billions in this company. Gee, only to find out this self-driving stuff's a lot harder than we thought it was. Well, now it's bit them in the rear end. They had to admit they have a net loss. And of course, that's what they admit to. Who knows what's really going on behind the doors? Ford lost $827 million the third quarter. And you know, they're hiding this stuff probably all over the place. Investments that went bad. And then once in a while, they stick them out there. They're there, right? But they're not admitting it. Then whenever they feel like it, they'll throw the figures out, I guess. They also say they have $1 billion in unexpected higher costs for parts. This is what happens when they went against their own founder, Henry Ford, who did everything in-house. He made the glass, he made the tires, he made everything. Now they farm it out. Yeah, then the people start raising the price on you because you can't control it. Ford knew what he was doing. The people after him, obviously, haven't a clue. They just let the bean counters taking over. Well, it's cheaper to do it this way. Yeah, well, it's not cheaper to do it this way now. Because the people they're supplying are saying, well, we'll charge you more for it. What are you going to do? You got to build your cars, right? You got them better short and curly. Now, when you look at it, you know, in terms of stock, of course, Ford's doing horrible. It closed this day at $12.82. 20 years ago, Ford was trading at $35 a share, and it's 12 something now. Obviously, they're not doing something all that well. All they talk about is growth. We got to do better. Well, they're obviously not. Their stock is worth much less than it used to be over that period of time, you know? 23 years, they keep saying, oh, we're doing better, we're doing better. Well, obviously, they aren't doing better. Look at all the quality control problems they've had. You can't believe what any of these people say, even when they tell you bad news. It's probably worse than what they're telling you. And who knows what shenanigans they're up to. Maybe they'll say, well, we didn't make any money, so we won't pay any taxes. Who knows what's actually going on? Donovan Allen says, Scotty, I've been thinking of replacing my 2013 Nissan Rogue with 140,000 miles soon before the tranny goes out. Is a Honda CR-V a good thing to move into? Yes, it certainly is. I like Toyotas, but the Honda CR-Vs are excellent too. And the Rogues, the big thing is, those transmissions go out. You got 140,000 miles. I can guarantee it's going to go out sometime soon in the future. Yes, get rid of it. You get a Honda, Hondas can last 2 to 4 times longer than the Nissans. It's just better made. Rudy Getz says, I live in central New York. Is it better to park in the driveway January to March instead of parking in an attached garage? Most people want to park their car in a garage, especially if it's heated. You can get in and out. You don't have to shovel snow off it and la 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 la, right? But here's the thing. What eats up your car? They put salt on the road in the winter, right? To keep ice from forming. It's not too bad when everything's cold and frozen. But if every night you bring that salt and ice into your garage and your garage is heated, it will melt. The liquid creates a battery electrolyte, and it will actually eat out faster. Unless when you bring it in a garage, you got a nice rinsing setup, and you maybe got a power washer with one of those little wands that goes upside down. You can spray under, take all the salt off. You are actually better leaving it outside than putting it in a heated garage, because it will rust faster. When ice and stuff melts, the salt's sitting there. So here's the weird thing. The salt's sitting there, doesn't really do anything. But once it gets wet, it creates a battery electrolyte, and it starts turning into a weak battery, which then the acid eats up the metal of the car. A lot of people don't know that. It's the water that does it, not just the salt itself. It has to become in a water solution and realize your entire car's body is negative electricity. The battery bolts to the body of the car negative, and the positive has all the wires. So your car is a giant battery floating down the road, and it gets salt water on it. It starts making battery acid, starts eating it up. That's why they start to rust. It's an acid reaction from the salt. And if you get it cold, frozen, that goes in, melts, then it starts eating it up. Now, if your garage isn't heated, it doesn't make any difference. But most people have an attached garage. It's heated, it will melt it, and it will rust faster. Joe Cantita says, Scotty, how would I check my fuel injectors with a multimeter? Here's the thing. Each car is different. You can get data. I use All Data. They got All Data DIY. You can look the stuff up. And you can get an ohmmeter, and you can measure the resistance in the fuel injectors. But that's a simple test. Unless it's really screwed up and shorted out inside, that doesn't necessarily tell you that they're working right. There's a pintle, little holes in the bottom, and then they open and spray. The only way you can really check a fuel injector is a mechanic like me. We hook up our freeze frame oscilloscope tester. And then we analyze the wave pattern of the injector, how it ramps up, how it fires, how it rebounds. It's very complex stuff. You can't really test it yourself. If it's totally shot, yeah, you can do the ohm reading and say, oh, it's way off, it's shot. But that isn't the whole story. They actually test them as a very complex thing, needing a freeze frame oscilloscope and the ability to read those graphs. They're not simple to read. I'm a little squiggle here, a little squiggle there, can mean a lot. And you look at it, yeah, they look about the same to me. But you got to know how to read them. It's very complex stuff. Luckily, they usually last quite some time. They don't go out all that often. Jamie Matamore says, morning, Scotty. Got an 07 Lexus, highest 250, 168,000 miles. The power steering light is on. How do I fix the problem? Well, this is the problem with modern cars. You have electronic power steering. There's really nothing you can fix yourself. That light is on because it says there's a problem in the system. You got to pay a mechanic like me with a very expensive scan tool to get the codes, there's various codes it can be, and then analyze the system that it shows is breaking down, and then fix it. There's really no user fixable things on electronic power steering. It's all sealed computer, electric motor crap. I mean, you could look at it, see maybe a wire got unplugged, but I doubt it. The Lexuses are well made. The wires generally don't ever get unplugged unless you're in a wreck and hit something. That's a problem with electronic power steering, man. When it starts to go out, shoo, you need a power steering assembly. They cost a fortune on those things. But they're all going that way, and unfortunately, unless you want to learn to be a mechanic, you're going to have to pay a mechanic to check that one out. It's very complicated stuff. Dakota says, Scotty, when are you going to admit Tesla's superior? Superior to what? Riding a horse? It's, yeah, phenomenal technology, right? But they cost a small fortune. They have more recalls than any other car out there. And that's no lie. Every single one's been recalled at least once. The quality control's garbage. Who knows if there's enough electric infrastructure? I met a guy the other day. He lives in Hawaii, but he was visiting relatives here. And he was renting a Tesla. I talked to him and I said, oh, you're from Hawaii. I said, you got a Tesla there? He said, yeah, I own one. I rented one here, but he said, I own one in Hawaii. And I said, isn't there a problem with charging stations in Hawaii? He says, yeah, there's a big problem. We have a real problem charging them in Hawaii. You're going to deal with paying all that money, having a hassle to charge them up. Wait till you get in a wreck and it gets smashed, and then you can't get parts and you're waiting months. There is no infrastructure for repair with that company. You know, you buy a new vehicle, any of them should last a while. But then when they break, how are you going to get them fixed? Hardly anybody knows how to fix them. At the Tesla dealer, I've seen people being reamed sideways. Oh yeah, you need this, that's going to be $22,000, and they don't think nothing of that. And there aren't that many Tesla dealers either. You don't have that much of a selection of where to go. It's their way or the highway. So, no, they have an interesting technology, yes, but is it the future? They might not even use those kind of batteries. They might not even use those motors. Mercedes build them using different types of motors. So, who knows? Who knows what's going to pass out? It's too early in the game to say somebody's the best, because nobody's best yet with electric cars. Here we go, the government spending our taxpayer money into private businesses. There's a battery plant on the other place I live, Clarksville, and they just got a $200 million grant from the feds to expand their battery factory. Okay, they already have one there and they're expanding it, right? When does the federal government get involved in businesses? They're obviously successful and they're expanding. Oh, here's a grant for you, $200 million. It's ridiculous. When do they get involved in businesses? Obviously, it's a successful business. They're growing. Why does the government have to give them money? Does the government give me $2 million and say, oh, expand your YouTube business helping people? No, I do it all myself, right? It's just insane what this government is doing these days. Giving businesses money to expand. It's not like they're starting up. They're already there, right? Or here's some money, you expand. How do they pick who they want? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd that the government's throwing that kind of money into stuff just totally wasted. Because outside of Clarksville, there's this giant area. When Obama was president, they had a big giant, put $1 billion something to develop an area. It fell flat on its face. Now, there is one big Google set up there because one of the old abandoned buildings had a bunch of cooling towers and they can use it for their computers to cool them down, right? So that Google's there. But then there's just miles of berms when you drive down the highway. And if you climb up the berms, you'll see they're just abandoned places that have been torn down and the cement foundations are still there. And that was our government money, over $1 billion wasted on that. I mean, why the government gets involved in this stuff is beyond me. I suppose there's money in the back pockets, bribes here or there. Who knows what's going on? But here we go again. This business is obviously successful. They're expanding. Why is our taxpayer dollar being given to these guys? It's absurd. It's patently absurd. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.